Imagine this. You're sitting across from her at a candlelit dinner, the soft glow casting shadows on her face as she smiles, her words teasing, testing, pulling you into a dance you didn't even realize you joined. You feel the urge to impress her, to explain yourself, to fill the silence with assurances of your worth, hoping she'll see you as the man you want to be. But then she leans back, her gaze shifting, a subtle challenge in her eyes, and you sense it. A power shift. A moment where you're no longer leading, but following, reacting to her every move, her every word. You've been here before, haven't you? The countless times you've chased her approval, bent to her emotional storms, let her tests unravel you, only to feel smaller, weaker, more lost in the game of attraction. You thought you were playing to win her heart. But now you're wondering, what if you've been playing the wrong game entirely? What if the power you seek isn't in her hands, but in yours? This is the paradox that haunts you. You've been taught that relationships are about giving, about being the good man who reacts, who fixes, who chases, all to earn her respect, her love, her desire. Society celebrates the man who bends, who compromises, who proves his worth through endless effort. But what if that's the very thing that strips you of power? What if the key to outsmarting her tests, her games, her emotional chaos, isn't in reacting more, but in reacting less? What if true dominance, true attraction, lies in a strength so quiet, so unshakable, that she can't help but be drawn to it, not because you chased her, but because you became the man she can't control? You felt it, haven't you? The way your emotional reactions, those quick defenses, those moments of over-explaining leave you exposed, vulnerable, at her mercy. The way you've chased her affection, hoping to pass her tests, only to feel like you're failing, like you're always one step behind. The way you've let her emotions pull you into chaos, leaving you questioning your own reality, your own worth. Why does this keep happening? Why does trying to be the good guy so often leave you feeling powerless, manipulated, and unseen? Why does it feel like you're losing a battle you didn't even know you were fighting? Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher who saw through the illusions of human nature, understood this battle centuries ago. He knew that power isn't found in reacting to others, but in mastering yourself, in cultivating a strength that transcends desire, that rises above chaos, that commands respect without begging for it. In a world where women test, where emotions manipulate, and where men are conditioned to chase, Nietzsche's 16 rules of power offer a different path. A way to outsmart her games by becoming the man she can't touch, the man who doesn't break, the man who leads by being unshakably himself. But why are we so drawn to this trap of reacting, of chasing, of losing ourselves in her world? What drives us to play a game that leaves us powerless? And what does it cost us in the end? Let's dive deeper into the hidden forces at play and uncover the truth behind why you've been losing this battle and how to win it. You felt the sting of losing control at that candlelit dinner, the sinking realization that your reactions, your need to explain, to fix, to chase her approval, left you powerless, caught in a game you didn't even know you were playing. You've been conditioned to believe that giving more, reacting faster, and bending to her emotional tests will win her respect, her desire, her loyalty. But the hidden problem isn't your effort. It's the belief that power in relationships comes from being the most responsive, the most accommodating, the most emotionally available. Let's uncover why you've been trapped in this cycle of chasing and reacting, and what Nietzsche understood about the forces that keep you from mastering the dynamics of power. Your psychology is wired to seek connection, but it's also your greatest vulnerability. Your brain craves validation. It's a survival mechanism. When she tests you, when her emotions flare or her silence cuts, your reward system lights up with dopamine, urging you to react, to win her approval, to feel accepted. But this wiring sets a trap. The fear of rejection activates your amygdala, driving you to over-explain, to chase, to prove your worth at any cost. Cognitive biases amplify this. The confirmation bias makes you believe that if you're kind, attentive, and reactive, she'll see you as strong. But this blinds you to her deeper instincts. Neuroscience shows that emotional reactivity, those heated arguments, those moments of over-explaining, spikes cortisol, keeping you in a state of stress, eroding your clarity, and making you appear weak. Why does reacting to her tests leave you feeling powerless? Because your brain is chasing a reward that's out of your control, handing her the reins to your emotions. Philosophically, this trap echoes Nietzsche's critique of the slave morality. He argued that society conditions men to seek approval through self-sacrifice, to be the good man who reacts, who bends, who lives for others' validation. But this sacrifices their power. You've been taught that a man's strength lies in how much he can give, how much he can prove, how much he can endure her tests without breaking. But Nietzsche would call this weakness. A man who lives for her approval is a slave to her gaze, not a master of his own destiny. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, he introduced the Übermensch, the overman who transcends societal norms, who creates his own values, who doesn't need external validation to stand tall. When you react emotionally, when you chase her approval, you're living the slave morality, not the power of the Übermensch. Society doubles down on this conditioning. In a world obsessed with emotional connection, think of the endless romance tropes, the cultural praise for the nice guy, the pressure to be her emotional anchor. You're taught that power in relationships comes from being the most reactive, the most available. Aldous Huxley warned in Brave New World of a society that keeps you chasing external validation to avoid facing your own truth. You see it in modern dating. The man who always texts back immediately, who jumps to fix her moods, who never walks away, thinking it'll earn her respect. But this isn't respect, it's control. A dynamic where you trade your power for her fleeting approval, leaving you open to manipulation, emotional chaos, and ultimately being discarded for the man who doesn't play this game. Carl Jung would add a deeper layer. Your reactivity stems from a disconnection from your shadow, the part of you that fears rejection, that craves approval, that hides your true strength. When you ignore this shadow, you let her tests pull you into chaos, using your unacknowledged weaknesses against you. But what happens when you keep reacting, keep chasing, keep playing by these rules? What happens when you ignore the power Nietzsche knew could make you untouchable? The consequences are more devastating than you might think, and they're already shaping your life in ways you can't ignore. Let's uncover those costs and see why you can't afford to stay in this trap any longer. You've been caught in the trap of reacting emotionally, chasing her approval with every word, every gesture, believing that bending to her tests and emotional storms will win her respect, her desire, her loyalty. You've seen how your psychology, societal conditioning, and philosophical illusions have driven you to play this losing game, prioritizing her validation over your own power. But the unseen consequences of this approach are silently unraveling your life, your relationships, and your very sense of self, leaving you further from the dominance you crave. Let's uncover the hidden costs of this mistake, the toll it's taking on your reality, and why you can't afford to keep playing by these rules. First, consider your relationships. When you react emotionally, jumping to explain yourself, engaging in her arguments, but you're not. You're handing her the reins, letting her control the dynamic by pulling you into her emotional chaos. She might test you with silence, with a sudden mood shift, or with a subtle jab. And when you react, you fail that test. You signal that you're at her mercy, that her emotions dictate your actions. You felt it, haven't you? The way she grows distant the more you chase, the way you're left scrambling to fix things, only to be met with indifference or manipulation. Social psychology calls this the reactance effect. When you react to her tests, you lose autonomy, and she loses respect. Over time, this erodes your ability to form healthy relationships, leaving you trapped in a cycle of emotional dependency, feeling more powerless with every reaction. The damage strikes deeper. It hits your core identity. Every time you react, every time you chase her approval, you chip away at your self-respect. You start to doubt your worth, your strength, your ability to stand firm without her validation. Cognitive biases like the self-blame bias make you internalize her tests as personal failures. You think you're not enough, that you need to react more, fix more, be more. But this only deepens the wound. Neurologically, chronic reactivity keeps your brain in a state of stress, flooding your system with cortisol, impairing your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for clarity and self-control. You become anxious, reactive, unable to hold your ground. Why does her silence or her storm hurt so much after you've given everything? Because it's not just her rejection. It's a betrayal of the self you thought you needed to be, a self you've sacrificed in the pursuit of her approval. On a broader scale, this pattern shapes the world around you. When you live on emotional autopilot, always reacting, always chasing, you become predictable, easy to manipulate in a society where power dynamics are You're playing into a game where women test, where emotional chaos is a tool, and your reactivity makes you a pawn, not a player. In modern relationships, this perpetuates a cycle of disposability. Men who react emotionally are taken for granted, while those who hold their ground, who embody strength, command respect. The bystander effect in power dynamics plays a role here. When everyone reacts, no one challenges the game, allowing women to prioritize the men who seem untouchable. Your reactivity doesn't just hurt you. It fuels a world where true power is ceded to those who know how to play differently. The stakes are higher than you realize. Every moment you spend reacting to her tests, chasing her approval, letting her emotions pull you into chaos, is a moment you're not becoming the man who naturally commands her respect. You feel it, don't you? The quiet ache of being controlled. The fear that you're meant to be more, but can't break free from this cycle. If you keep going like this, what will you lose next? Your confidence? Your relationships? Your very sense of self? There's a way out, a rebellion against this trap, a path to embody the power Nietzsche knew could make you untouchable. Let's take that step and discover how to become the man she can't control, the man who commands power effortlessly. You've rebelled against the trap of emotional reactivity, embracing independence, stillness, and self-awareness to reclaim your power, shifting the dynamic so her tests no longer shake you, her storms no longer move you, and your presence commands respect without you needing to chase. You've stopped playing the game of validation, choosing instead to embody the strength Nietzsche championed, becoming a man who doesn't break, who doesn't bend, who leads by being unshakably himself. But here's the ultimate truth Nietzsche's wisdom reveals. True power isn't about outsmarting her. It's about outsmarting yourself. The man who commands respect, who transcends her games isn't the one who wins her. It's the one who wins himself, becoming so whole, so grounded in his own truth, that his very existence becomes a force she can't resist, a force that reshapes the dynamic without a single word. This revelation redefines everything, turning your struggle into strength, your presence into dominance, and your life into a testament to the man you were always meant to be. Nietzsche understood that power begins with self-overcoming, not external conquest. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, he spoke of the Übermensch, the overman who transcends societal norms, who creates his own values, who doesn't need her approval to stand tall. You've been reacting to her tests, chasing her validation, letting her emotions pull you into chaos. But the ultimate truth flips this on its head. The man who holds true power doesn't need to outsmart her games because he's already outsmarted his own weaknesses. Independence, stillness, self-awareness. These traits aren't just tools to navigate her tests. They're reflections of a man who's mastered himself, who doesn't need her to feel complete because he's already whole. When you transcend your own need for validation, when you stand firm in your own truth, you become the kind of man she can't touch, not because you pushed her away, but because you've become a mountain, unmovable, undeniable. Philosophically, this truth aligns with Marcus Aurelius's Stoic wisdom. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The pain of her tests, the frustration of her chaos, the anxiety of not being enough, it all stems from tying your worth to her response. But when you master yourself, when you know your value isn't dependent on her respect, you become unshakable. Carl Jung would add that this mastery comes from integrating your shadow, the part of you that fears rejection, that craves approval, that hides your true strength. By facing that shadow, by becoming whole, you radiate a presence that's magnetic, a depth that commands respect without you needing to chase. You don't need to fight her games. You've already won by becoming a man who transcends them. Psychologically, this revelation is transformative. Reacting to her tests keeps you in a cycle of stress, flooding your brain with cortisol, eroding your self-esteem with every failure to pass. But when you master your own mind, you break that cycle. You lower stress, allowing your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for clarity and confidence, to take over. You feel calmer, more grounded, more in control. Studies show that men who cultivate self-mastery report higher emotional resilience and stronger relationships, because they're no longer at the mercy of her chaos. They're at the helm of their own reality. You might find yourself forming deeper connections, not because you need them, but because you choose them. And that choice makes all the difference. This changes how you live. You walk through the world differently now, with a quiet certainty, a presence that reshapes every dynamic without you needing to try. You're not the man you were, the one who reacted, who chased, who lived for her approval. You're a man who knows himself, who commands respect through his stillness, his independence, his unshakable truth. Think of someone like Nelson Mandela, whose self-mastery made him a force no oppression could break. You can do the same, turning every interaction into a reflection of your power, every test into a moment of your dominance. Picture this. You're back at that candlelit dinner, but now she's the one leaning in, her eyes locked on you, drawn to the man who doesn't chase, who doesn't break, who doesn't need her to shine, because you already do. This is Nietzsche's ultimate truth. True power comes from within. And when you embody it, her games become irrelevant. Not because you outsmarted them, but because you became the man who transcends them. Step into that truth, live it, and let it redefine everything. You've walked through the shadows of emotional reactivity, felt the weight of chasing her approval, and uncovered the unseen costs that left you powerless, manipulated, and disconnected from your own strength. You've learned Nietzsche's ultimate truth. True power comes from mastering yourself, embodying traits like independence, stillness, and self-awareness that make you unshakable. A man who transcends her games by becoming a force she can't resist. You're no longer the man who reacts, who chases, who bends. You're the man who commands respect, who reshapes the dynamic by being unshakably himself. Start today. Take one small step to embody this power. The next time she tests you, hold your silence for 10 seconds. Feel your stillness, and watch how it shifts the energy. Practice this in every interaction, and feel the transformation. Her tests lose their sting, her chaos loses its pull, and your presence becomes undeniable. You've learned to be the man who doesn't need to outsmart her, because you've outsmarted yourself, becoming a mountain she can't move, a truth she can't ignore. How does it feel to command power without chasing? Share in the comments. What's one rule you'll use today? And how did it change the dynamic? Your story could inspire another man to break free from emotional chaos. If this resonated with you, hit the like button. It lets us know you want more content like this. Subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss our next dive into philosophy and self-mastery. Share this with a man who's been reacting too much, chasing too hard. He might need this wisdom to become the man who commands respect effortlessly. The world will keep testing you, pulling you into chaos. But now you know the truth. You don't need to fight for the crown. You become it. Step into that power, live it, and build a life where respect follows, not because you demanded it, but because you became the man who embodies it. You're not just navigating her games, you're transcending them, and the world will never feel the same again.